On September 3, 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, and the American Revolutionary War came to an end with the recognition of the United States as an independent country. The treaty set the boundaries between British North America, which later became Canada, and the United States. Tensions began to rise after the British gained dominance over North America following the 7 Years' War against France. The passing of the Stamp and Townshend Acts further escalated tensions and caused the British Army to attempt to occupy Boston militarily. These actions led to the Boston Massacre on March 5, 1770, where British soldiers opened fire on a crowd that had been harassing them verbally and throwing projectiles. In an attempt to disarm the colonists following the Boston Tea Party, the British imposed the Intolerable Acts that sought to punish the colonists for protesting the Tea Act. These acts led to the battles of Lexington and Concord and the beginning of the Revolutionary War. At this point, the war existed only between the British and the Massachusetts militias. It fell to John Adams, born in Braintree and elected as a delegate to the Continental Congress, to convince the other states to support the fighting men of Massachusetts. At first, the representatives of the southern colonies had no interest in a war that only existed in the north, but Adams was able to convince enough of them that war was inevitable. The Second Continental Congress voted to incorporate the colonial militias into the newly formed Continental Army and unanimously voted for General George Washington to lead the army. By August of 1775, the British had declared the colonies in a state of rebellion, and almost a year later, the Second Continental Congress formalized the war by passing the Lee Resolution on July 2nd, and the most famous and important document in US history on July 4th of 1776, the Declaration of Independence. For much of the conflict, it was unknown who held the advantage and would ultimately prevail. But the decisive victory by Washington and his Continental Army at the Siege of Yorktown in 1781 led King George III and the Kingdom of Great Britain to negotiate an end to the war. The treaty was signed, and the dream of freedom and independence became a reality.
No one has done more for history than History in Minutes Daily.